Aloha, and welcome to a new Ohana Packers Edition podcast, the podcast where two bros from halfway across the world chat about everything green and gold. I'm Mike, and that is Iowa Joe. Today, we take a look at the disappointing loss to the Falcons. Joe, that was, we can file that under young team learning to win, but it's still disappointing no matter which way you try and whichever way you want to look at that game from Sunday.
Yeah, it's kind of like I tweeted after the game. I responded to a friend of the show, Brendan Zerwinski, or I'm sorry, Brendan, I can never get your name right. I'm horrible at it. But he said something about kind of like what you said, growing pains with a young team, making the mistakes. But I could understand it if all the mistakes were from the offense because that's the youngest group. But most of the mistakes came from the defense, and the defense is our most veteran part of the team. So they should be the ones not making as many mistakes. They're the ones we should be leaning on when it comes to games like this. But in the second half, when the offense needed the defense was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight 2020, you'd love to see any sort of production from the offense in the fourth quarter, but I know it's not the same NFL game as it was even 5 years ago. But when you go into a fourth quarter with a double digit lead, you expect to come out of that game with a win, whether you run away with it in the end or you scrape it together. But yeah, it's disappointing in that sense of it. It felt like they were in position to be in control of that game, but like you said, defense just couldn't come through, and also it just felt like LaFleur coached it a little scared. But we'll get into that as we get into our points. The big spotlight all season is how did Jordan Love do today? I thought today was another mostly good day in the office for Jordan. Not on paper, people are going to kind of look at it and say, he only had 151 passing yards. It's a little bit of context out of context, but you do kind of have to account for the nearly 90 yards of DPI penalty yardage that were accrued on two throws because especially the first one, the first throw on the flea flicker, that looked in stride. And if it wasn't for, I think that was AJ Terrell, who just basically said, screw it, I'm beat, and I'm just going to take his legs out from under him. Wicks had a shot at catching that one in stride. And then the later one to Dobbs, I don't know if he goes much farther than the catch point, but I do think he's catching that if Trey Flowers doesn't armbar him in the chest on that one. So do kind of have to allot those to passing yards. But yeah, I thought it was a good day at the office for the most part for Jordan. How about you?
Well, and even a couple of the other throws that he missed, and they weren't even really misses. They were on target. Like I'm thinking of the one in the end zone to Wicks that Wicks had it, but between the corner kind of hooking his arm and the bobble with the other hand, it was perfectly placed. He just couldn't come down with it. And then there was what was it? It was one that it was on was it on a flat? So was it uh um the tight end where he like hit him right in the hands and he just kind of dropped it?
Yeah, I can't remember who that one was, but I know which play you're talking about. Yeah, there was that one. And then, honestly, I thought the final throw he had to Toure, I thought he put that in just about the only place he could put that one. So, yeah, I know people
Yeah,
are.
but that one was kind of hard because Torre was had to contort, and I don't necessarily blame it on either one. Jordan was
No,
trying
no,
to
no,
make a
no.
play.
Yeah,
Torre was just trying to do what he could with the way the ball was thrown.
yeah. I'm more just saying I thought he put that basically the only place he could on that play. He was running out of time in the pocket on that play and basically threw it the only place it could go and gave his guy a chance. That's the main thing. And I think it looking on building from week to week, I thought he was a little bit better, even if it was only a little bit better than last week in terms of just getting the ball to where he wanted it to be. Not just throwing a strike in the strike zone, but getting it on the correct corner. If we're using baseball terminology, making sure that fastball that's supposed to be outside and low is in fact outside and low. We saw him hit a couple quick outs to Jaden Reed going in for the Reed's second touchdown of the game. He put the ball nice and to the sideline. And then I thought his first touchdown throw, it's a quote unquote throw because the ball is moving forward, but his touchdown to Wicks and then the second throw to Reed, I thought those were really good signs of Love's maturity in the system, because he's hitting his back foot, going through his progressions, and the ball is coming out on time, and he's giving his guys a chance to make not so much Reed on the second touchdown. That one was more Love just making a quick read and getting it to Reed wide open in the flat. But the one to Wicks, he's going through his reads, putting it right on Wicks' chest so that Wicks has a chance to catch the ball and turn upfield and make something happen to, get in the end zone from, I think, 15 yards out or something like that. So really liked seeing that from Love today.
Well, and it's a common thing from what I said all of last year was you just got to build on successes. And it seemed like Jordan was building on successes. I mean, he still, hasn't thrown an interception yet, which we were all concerned about because he was kind of in that gunslinger mode. He's putting, in the first game, there were some throws that, yeah, they were good throws, but they weren't good throws because he overshot this one or, he undercut this one. And now in this game, you didn't really see that. You were seeing him be a little bit more accurate. So you just got to build those successes and stack them and go from there. And it's good to see that he did, obviously the 151, but you throw three touchdowns on that. Almost 4 or 5 just, didn't fall his way. But, I can't really complain about it. The only complaint that I can have is, and we don't know if it was his fault or Meyer's fault or whose fault it was, but if you're going to sneak the ball, you got to kind of wait for the snap to
I know.
happen.
In the post game, Jordan he took blame for that one. He said that he made the wrong call at the line and stuff. And my biggest gripe with that one is I'm like, why wasn't it the play? That's my biggest gripe with it. Is it's like, you're there, like just go for it. Don't even bother with trying to draw him offside. Just go, kind of thing and stuff. Because
that didn't make sense to me either, because it was 4th and really short. It would have been different. If it was 4th and 5 and you wanted to try drawing them off, but it was 4th and really short. If you can't get a half a yard or a couple inches, then there's
we're the Bears.
There's a big issue there, and that's something that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But that's a big issue.
And to me, like looking back on it, people are gonna say like, "Oh, should they really have called it live?" Like to me, it's like, okay, sure, you're giving the ball to Atlanta on your own 34 and whatever ish yard line, but it's like, okay, maybe they don't use up as much of the clock and you have more time at the end if they do kick the field goal, or you're able to just bleed the clock out after that point. So that's why I kind of thought they should have just gone for it. Like you said, Love is really limiting his, not just even mistakes, but potential mistake throws. He only had that one real, oh no play kind of thing at the end.
I would say he had 2 because he almost had 2 picked today.
Which one was I'm thinking of the Terrell one towards the end on like the third to the last drive.
Well, there was one earlier on that I want to say that could have been a pick 6, or was that the later one?
That was the later one, I think.
I think he had 2 of them today where, well, technically 3, because one got tipped.
Oh, the one he got going, yeah.
Yeah, but there was a second one, and I can't remember because it's been, I didn't rewatch anything, but I want to say there was one earlier on that he was trying to thread the needle, and there was no needle to thread. It was just all defender.
Let me try something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we saw a couple plays where guys kind of weren't on the same page. I think it was the second down play after the flea flicker where he's expecting Musgrave to be looking at him more quickly on his route, and Musgrave is still kind of dodging defenders as he crosses the field and things like so. I
I think
mean,
that might have been the play that it almost got intercepted on.
yeah, it kind of
'Cause
landed, it went
yeah,
behind Musgrave because he's not looking for the ball, and then it kind of went in between like 2 or 3 Falcons kind of thing and
yeah.
stuff. So it's one of those where it looks a lot worse because Musgrave's just not expecting the ball, and Love is expecting him to be expecting the ball. But I know what you're saying is like it's one of those where it definitely looked the end result looks worse than what I think Love even thought he was throwing into on that one. Because if Musgrave looks, he's wide open there. But
Yeah.
overall, I thought a pretty clean game from Jordan. And the main thing too is Atlanta did try to bring a little more pressure. They had the busted pass protection on the second drive, and despite all of that, Love just looked poised and composed in the pocket, and I really do like seeing that from him as the game goes, kind of thing.
There was one other time that it wasn't a throw, but I think it was a decision-making process where he had somebody going up the seam or up the sideline, but then he had Dobbs on a crosser, and Dobbs popped wide open, and instead of seeing Dobbs pop wide open, he forced it over to whoever was running up the sideline.
Yeah,
Because
I
even the
know.
broadcast guys were even saying something like
Yeah,
that.
I'd have to watch the all 22 on that one. And Vilma's right. Dobbs breaks open, but when I saw the replay of it, it looks like Love is already throwing, like he's in the middle of his throwing motion to Wicks by the time Dobbs is breaking back across the field. So it, you, it's one that I have a hard time really blaming him for. The only gripe, I guess, is Wicks wasn't that open, but I know that it's one of those plays where he is supposed to get the ball out on time and Dobbs isn't breaking open by the time he's throwing it. So it's one that I'll rejudge it when I rewatch the game, but I wasn't as I wasn't jumping up and down about that one because I thought when he was throwing is when Dobbs got open. So now we get to the fun part on offense, the run game, which oh brother, where art thou? It was a struggle on the ground today for Green Bay. Partly because the offensive line was being shuffled, especially early. They were kind of splitting snaps between Rasheed Walker and Yosh Nijman at left tackle, and then Elton Jenkins goes out of the game with a knee injury. Yeah, just not much to be said about the ground game. Dylan, I've rewatched the final third down play. Honestly, that play, it's a combination of a lot of different things, but it honestly just wasn't blocked very good. Our old buddy Royce Newman again blew a double team, and Rasheed Walker got beat across his face. And I think Dylan just said, screw it, I'm going to just put my head down and try to get a yard. And unfortunately, he got too over his skis and just kind of tried to dive for the first, but didn't make it.
Well, that's been
Yeah.
my biggest issue with him so far, and that's kind of another thing I got. We didn't really get into an argument or anything, but I said that even if Jones returns next week, something has to change because Dylan just isn't it. Well, the gentleman came back and was like, "Okay, what are you talking about? He's got almost 50 yards. He's helping out the play action." Well, okay. Well, I think Emmanuel Wilson could have helped out with the play action getting only 50 yards. I mean, if you're being complimentary of 50 yards, then there's something wrong. I mean, he was only averaging maybe 3.8 a carry, and he, for one, can't keep his balance. He was always falling down. His something that we've talked about often, his pad levels are way too high. His vision doesn't seem to be there. He's just not the bowling ball he was in college. There's something going on. Now, is it coaching? Is it him? What's going on? But he just does not seem to be the answer. And something has to happen. And it's sure the hell not Patrick, just a guy Taylor. And Emmanuel Wilson struggled today too, but they really had him on like a low snap count, if any. I mean, I barely remember seeing him on the field. And when they did, it was in some kind of weird pitch out type run play that got swallowed up real quick. So if hopefully Aaron Jones is back next week, but if he's not, then they need to be looking at something, whether it's, bring in a couple of other practice squatters, make a trade. I'm not saying go and get a Jonathan Taylor, but, get something to boost it, because without Aaron Jones, you can pretty much tell our run game is shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real way to sugarcoat it, and you know, I understood the intent of the pick for pairing AJ Dillon behind Aaron Jones, but the big problem is that they're two different types of runner, and not just because one is big and one is smaller, kind of thing. It's that Jones is a unicorn in terms of where if you give him 5 touches or if you give him 30 touches in a game, he's going to be as efficient and productive. If you split up his touches, kind of thing, you're going to get at minimum 5 yards a touch, kind of thing. Whereas Dillon, it's like he has to kind of feel out the game, and that's kind of where Green Bay only had like 40 something snaps on offense, and you don't get in a rhythm. It's hard to get in a rhythm when you're losing the time of possession by almost a quarter, basically at the end of the game and stuff like that. But I know it's disappointing.
Well, that even proves my point in a way that Dillon's just not it. If he's got to, build up throughout the game to be effective, or, you can only run him out of certain formations. I know I've heard that a lot too, where he needs to be back deep and run out of the, an I formation or whatever to get ahead of steam. Then that just goes to show he's not a fit for this system.
Yeah,
So we can't be kidding ourselves saying, "Oh yeah." Now, don't get me wrong. AJ Dillon, great guy. He's done great things for PR. The whole Mirador County. He's got a new book out. Great for him. Good guy. But that, just because he's a good guy, doesn't make him a fit for the system that the Packers are running. And
yeah,
the
and
hope
that's
was that he would learn it, and it doesn't seem like he's learned it.
yeah, and fair or not, the measuring stick is who's out there on the field on the final like 2 or 3 snaps of the game. It's just the guy Patrick Taylor, and yeah, so you have between your actual running backs on the day, Dillon is 15 for 55 yards, 3.7 yards per carry. Taylor got 1 carry for 1 yard, and Wilson got 3 carries. It looks like he only had 5, but in reality, they need to, even with Jones, they need to take that shotgun like side pitch thing. They need to take that play and shoot it into the sun, and whatever
Yeah.
survives that, shoot it into the next galaxy, because I hate that play, especially when you're running it into the left side where you don't have your starting left tackle and 2
Yeah.
rookie tight ends. It's one of those where it's like, I get what you're trying to show, but maybe not now, kind of thing.
Well, let's
And
talk about that for a minute, because it's really interesting that David Bakhtiari didn't play. Now, I know he popped up on the week with limited practice because of the knee, or did not practice or whatever, and they actually listed him with a knee problem. But it's also kind of interesting that this is the type of turf that he, and rightfully so, the rest of the NFLPA has been fighting against. And he was just fine, did great in the first game, and now, he's injured and can't play. So I know the conspiracy theories are going to be out there that, oh, well, he just isn't going to play on turf. I saw a bunch of that already. He's just not going to play on turf. And
LaFleur shot that down pretty quick after the game too. Um, I just think that no one's gonna like the answer no matter what. I do think it goes back to the play that we both held our breath against Chicago, where he got rolled up on the first drive, and um, you know coaches speaking, coach speaking stuff, but LaFleur was pretty adamant in the post game that it wasn't a he's not playing on turf kind of thing. I do think that roll up in the first quarter against Chicago that dinged his knee up a little more, which it's not an
But to
answer
be
anyone wants
fair,
to hear either.
well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
but to be fair, Mike, he's not going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, David Bakhtiari is not going to play on turf."
right.
We're just not going to play him on turf. There'd be no way the LaFleur could come out and say that because everybody would crucify him for that kind of comment. So he's going to.
Yeah.
It's like he's not going to come out and badmouth a player because if he does, that player's going to give up on him. So he's got to sit there and try to make it sound like you know it's a positive light where I'm not saying that Bakhtiari is doing that. It could be and I don't even know if it was the play that he got rolled up on because if you remember right, he played the rest of the game and had no issues and was given, was posing for pictures and flipping the bird and everything else. So if it was really an issue, I think you would have saw it more during the game. I'm wondering if it was just playing the game had an after effect period because we know he's been dealing with fluid on the knee and whatever. But it's kind of weird that all of a sudden, we go from amazing all pro level tackle, not practicing, plays pro level, not practicing, not playing. So it's a weird situation.
Like I said, at the end of the day, whatever we're never gonna know what the truth of it is, but it's an answer that nobody's gonna like because it's either he's not playing on turf, he's whatever, like, and we saw a lot of people making their thoughts on that, just saying like going so far as to say like cowardly offensive linemen, and the other side is, oh crap, the knee is still an issue kind of thing. So it doesn't really matter in that sense. It's just, yeah, like you said, um who knows? Let's just hope he's back for next week against New Orleans. Um, yeah, and then in terms of offensive coaching, I thought LaFleur was great between. So he had the flea flicker, and then he like lost his marbles for a drive and a half. And then from that point through Reed's second touchdown, I thought he called a great game. And then I thought he just turtled too much down the stretch kind of thing. I didn't care for those last couple drives. And then, I mean, that desperation drive, I don't really grade those because I know some people are like, why is everyone going? I was like, I don't really grade those either way because, I mean, you're just trying to get down the field at that point. But I thought, especially the second to last drive, you don't even let Love have one, especially after you gain 6 yards on first down. Like, go play action on second down and see if something pops open or something like that. But to just kind of, I still don't want to say they have a LaFleur problem, but I don't know. I know that a lot of people are going to say he's protecting the young quarterback and blah blah blah, but put the game away. You saw Arthur Smith go balls to the wall and put the game away on his terms, and I kind of want to see LaFleur do that.
But the thing is we've been dealing with that even through McCarthy, where it doesn't seem like they ever want to put their foot on the gas and just go for it. No matter how much speak we would get out of it. That was the whole all gas, no fucking break. Well, I've not seen that in the whole time he's been here. It always seems like it's, we'll do the speed limit. So it just, yeah, his play calling. What I was amazed by the flea flicker. I never expected that out of Matt LaFleur. And what was the other one? Was it the like the fake end around to uh or the fake handoff to the end around to Reed
Oh
that
yeah, 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 yeah.
got him his touchdown. Never saw that one coming. It even had the camera guy confused because he was following the running back.
The camera guys were absolute crock today. They were
Yeah, well,
horrible.
I'll be honest, I had a hard time watching the game anyway because I couldn't get it pulled up on the computer, so I had to watch it on my phone. So I only had to
Oh,
had my
no.
screen like that big, so I couldn't really watch much of it. Um, but I And I know a lot of people are gonna crucify him for the, not kicking the field goal. And in a way I can understand it. I can see both sides. Yeah, it would have been nice to have the 3 points, but then again, you gotta remember we've got this rookie kicker who is having his own, like, mental issues that if he misses it, is he gonna come back from it later on in the game?
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation to have because y- just watching it, watching it live when it happened. I remember when the play clock got down to 6, and you kind of know how place kickers set up. They get next to the holder, and then they kind of take their steps back and stuff. They're at like 6 or 7 seconds, and I'm like watching, thinking, no one really seems to care that it's
Well, yeah,
just
that
taken
part of
away.
it I understand, but then even people are talking about, "Oh, well, he could have made it 56 yards. He could have made it 56 yards because after the penalty, it was
Yeah,
56." It's like, guys, you got to remember, this kid has a
yeah,
problem bouncing back if he misses one. We saw
yeah,
it
and
throughout the preseason. If you take his confidence away, he's not going to gain it back. We got to work with him. Don't put that kind of pressure on him right now.
And I think too, it's a little different because like the 57-yarder he kicked in the preseason, the 52-yarder he kicked against Chicago last week. Yes, those are outdoors and stuff, but those were end of half scenarios where if he misses it, it's you just go into the locker room. It's like, okay, hey, we're just trying to get some points. Whereas in that scenario, you give Atlanta a short field and then you do the whole, oh, what if we had just punted it? Now we gave them a short field, and if they go down and score, then that just, like you said, it potentially adds to his snowball effect where not only is he thinking potentially, oh, I missed the kick, but oh, I set them up on the doorstep kind of thing. And also, but yeah, I'm not much on the they should have kicked the 56-yarder. I'm just like, then just punt, like don't even send the field goal unit out. Just punt
Well,
kind
and
of
we've
thing
been
instead.
having that the last 2 weeks where it seems like we're having tons of clock issues again. Where
Yep.
are the plays just that long that it's hard to get them called in the amount of time they're needed? Or,
That's
you
what we've
know
heard. That's what we've heard from the day LaFleur was hired. And so I don't put that too much on Love either. You kind of expect that with a young quarterback because it is not only a young quarterback, but all his receivers are first time players plus Dobbs, who's only got a season of So he's directing traffic, and I know they practice that, but it's different when you have to simulate previous play ended, waiting for the ref to spot the ball. Coach has to decide what his plan is based off of where the ball exactly is, and there's a whole flow chart, and I know they do practice it, but you can't really scheme up. They can dress rehearsal it, but there isn't you can't really simulate dealing with the crowd noise, dealing with the defense, all that kind of stuff. So um it's one of those that I'm just hoping, like you said, it's one of those things that I'm hoping Love will improve at. But in terms of the transitioning to special teams, yeah, that part of it, it's like, Matt, that's you and Bisaccia. Like, that's your two like most senior coaches on the staff. What the hell are you two doing? But those are things that we'll just have to earmark moving forward in the season.
well, and like I
Yeah.
said earlier, the offensive side with it being so young and the first time starter, I get it. There are gonna be mistakes on it. What we're gonna be talking about next is the side of the ball that they don't have room for mistakes because they are our veteran group.
Yep. So let's turn the chapter to the defense. And like I think you've seen them too, where people are saying, oh, who is this on? Is this on coaching? Is this on the players? It's never just one side or the other. But to me, especially down the stretch of this game, it's coaching. I'm sorry. You have a 12-point lead going into the fourth quarter against a team that is trying everything to hide its quarterback, whether it's running out of every every type of run play possible, or just getting the ball out of his hands in half a second. He's playing hot potato on some of these screen passes. Dude, play big. If you get beat over the top, I'm just saying, oh well, at this point. But you can't let Atlanta just ice the game away from behind, which I know a lot of people are saying that doesn't make any sense, but it's one of those, you're just waiting for the floodgates to break. And yeah, that's all I'm going to start with. I'm sure you don't
Well,
have many different thoughts there.
no, other than I think it is a both thing. I will honestly, yeah, it's the coaches needing to put the players in the position, but there were also some boneheaded plays out there that it wasn't making sense. They, you know, the one that comes to mind, and I know I can't critique this one too much because of just what happened with it, but the Savage play on that deep pass to where Atlanta
They
pretty
ran
much
their flea
did,
flicker.
yeah, they ran their flea flicker. Savage was in position. He sped all the way over there and got himself in position. Without going back and rewatching like you would with the all 22 or whatever, I think he just misplayed it.
So I watched the replay on it, and okay, on one hand, you're right. It's one of those we've kind of come to where with Savage, it's like he's there, but he's not making the play necessarily. It's one of those ones where it's just unfortunate. Like you said, he puts on the afterburners to get there from the middle of the field. And when he jumps, if you watch the replay, you can see his head. It looks like he hit the bottom of the bunk above him because the way he jumps, he's jumping from an angle to get himself in the play because he's trying to do the right thing as DBs are taught, where you kind of jump back into the receiver to kind of box him out. But when he jumps, his helmet hits Hollins' his elbow and forearm, and everyone's like, oh, he had banana in the tailpipe. I'm like, no, banana in the tailpipe is what happens when I jump. That is, his head hit the bottom bunk because you can see his head come forward like this. And Mac Hollins, I think he's 6'4" or something like that, and Savage is like my height. He's 5'11", so he's a little taller than me, but it's just one of those where it's like, damn it. Like, obviously,
Well,
I want him to make the play, but I can't grill him on that one. It's yeah.
I think what I mean by I think he misplayed it was I think he misjudged the jump. I think he started the jump a little too soon, and that's why he ran into
Probably.
Hollins.
I
If
can argue.
he would have took another
yeah.
step, or if he would have just threw the arm up, the way that ball went, I don't think Hollins would have been able to make a clean catch on it.
Yeah.
But again, I haven't went back through and I haven't watched anything like that. I'm just going by what I saw, the replays I saw on during the game. And it looks like if he wouldn't have jumped at the time he did, if he would have waited a step or maybe jumped a step earlier or something, I think he could have made the play.
Yeah, it was close. It was really close. And yeah,
and then there was the other one in the end zone where they were on like the 10-yard line, and was it Ritter ran it in, or Ritter hit the like a screen pass or something, and it split Razul and
oh no, that was they ran the zone read, and Rashawn took he was half a step late to get back out to Ritter when he saw that Johnson didn't have the ball. Honestly, it's a really good play call by Smith because he's playing on, like I said, Barry plays off the whole drive coming down the field, and then they get Bijan Robinson into rhythm. He's breaking off like 12, 13-yard runs every other play. And so and this doesn't excuse Rashawn. He's got to play his keys. He's got to play his responsibilities, keep the back gate in hand. But he's thinking, they gave it to Bijan, and I've got to go help, bring him down in the backfield. And then what kind of screwed up Razul on that one is he gets delayed in release in coming downhill to attack because he's thinking that he can't see where the O line is, so he's thinking his receiver, because his receiver runs a route, his receiver didn't block him, so he does have to honor defending the route and that delay allows Ritter the lane to get in the end zone. I think it was like a 4th and 4 or 3 or something like that. And so it is one of those where, yes, Green Bay had 2 guys who could have made a play, but you also do have to chalk it up. It is a great situational call by Smith to catch Green Bay's defense in a bind. And to me, it's one of those where it's like too little, too late kind of thing, where it's you have third down opportunities as a defense ahead on that drive, and you don't get off the field. And yeah, that's the bigger disappointment for me
and that was the whole thing throughout the game. Is it seemed like one down they would be amazing, and then the next down there was nothing there, and then the next down they were amazing, and then there was nothing there. So, and there were a lot of drop picks. Jair should have had a pick 6. Quay had one hit him right in the hands. It was the same exact play as last week against the Bears. I think Razul had the one pick, but I think he was set up for another one. I think it was in the end zone. It was either Razul or it was Savage, and they just missed it. So that could have turned the page. Had, Jair, held on to it, even if it wasn't a pick 6, he still would have had the turnover. If Quay would have held on to it, there's no doubt it wasn't going to be a pick 6 again, but he would have, it would have been a turnover. They were in the positions to make the plays. They just weren't making the plays.
Yeah. And so the Quay one, I don't want to say it's not as bad, because you're right. Like, you want to convert those opportunities, but the Quay one, at least Green Bay went down and scored a touchdown the drive after. And Jair owned it afterward. He said he's going to be thinking about that one for a week or longer, because that was the one where it would have been tough because there was a receiver in front of him, but he might have had a chance to go down the sideline and score. And that was, if he scored, that one potentially cost the Packers 4 points on that one. So, yeah, like you said, those are juicy opportunities, and you never want to leave those on the field. And like I said, that just fed into my frustration with allowing Atlanta to get in overall offensive rhythm by playing so soft, playing light boxes. And I know Jason Perone was saying, like, oh, they did go big, but I said, but look at their alignment. He's pinching the D lineman. You look at where our D line, where was Atlanta beating us? They weren't beating us up the middle. They were beating us. Everything was an outside zone, and you're playing your D lineman pinched inside the offensive tackles. It's like, dude, you're up in the box. You can see where they're winning. Like,
yeah,
and yeah, that's a conversation that we've been repeating over and over and stuff. They had guys, like you said, they had guys in the backfield most of the day, but even I saw people giving Darnell crap on the last 4th down conversion. I don't know if people are saying he should have come under control. It's 4th and like inches. You gotta trigger and go. Where is his help? And that's the same damn play they converted 4th down at the end of the second quarter. To me, he did his job. Obviously, you would love for him to make that tackle for loss, but he funnels Bijan back inside. Where's the rest of the defense? And like I said, you saw that play in the first half. Once you see Ritter start to do this, you got to know where the hell the ball is going at that point. Like, Darnell is the only one who triggered downhill. No one else did.
And, outside that one misplay, and I'm not even saying it was a bad play. I'm just saying he missed it.
Right. He could have had
I think Darnell had a hell of a game.
Yep.
And I will even take it back from what I said last week. Just looking back and all that, Darnell had a good game against the Bears too.
Yep.
So, I mean, maybe he's made that he's made that turnaround and he's starting to make that stride into what we had hoped. But it's obvious he's not getting any help from his counterpart.
Yeah, and that's something that we brought up last week. And honestly, the youth move, like you said, the youth movement is big on offense. They've gotta. I know there aren't many spots on defense where they can really do that, but you gotta just start letting Johnson learn on the job. Like you're just burning snaps with Ford
I
at this point.
am really surprised that Anthony Johnson did not get activated for this game. Last week I could understand why, because he was still limited in practice with the knee. This week at practice, he was full participant, full go, and he was still inactive. I, there is no way he could be any worse than Rudy Ford right now.
Yeah. Because, I mean, one of the big things that you were supposed to be getting from Ford is solid tackling, and you're not even getting that necessarily on defense. And so, if you're not even
Maybe
getting
100 yards down the field,
if you're not even getting the tackling side of it, then, like, yeah, I just don't see it. He's a step out of phase on a lot of things. Yeah, I just don't see the benefit of having Johnson just sit on the sideline in a sweater. Like, just get him out there already. Like, he should be playing over everyone but Savage in that safety room, basically. I just
well,
see
and
no
I'm
benefit.
wondering what they're going to do here pretty soon, because they've already used up 2 activations for Enos Gaines, or Ennis, or however they pronounce his first name. They've already used their 2 activations for Patrick, just to guide Taylor. You know, I think they only get 3, don't they?
Yep, only 3.
So what are they going to do from then? They only got, isn't Patrick Taylor the only running back on the practice squad?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do not
What
believe
are
they
they
have.
going to do then? If Aaron Jones is out for an extended period of time, what are you going to do? You're going to cut Emmanuel Wilson and bring Patrick Taylor onto your active roster?
I don't think they can even do that because I can't see them going down to only 2 running backs. So you'd have to. I don't know who you'd be cutting, but you'd be cutting someone else, and I guess they exactly which way they would go on that one, but yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. I agree with you. Last week, it kind of made sense where, maybe the knee was still a little bulky and he's still a rookie and all that kind of stuff. But seeing the safety play across from Savage back to back weeks, it's been uninspiring at best. And like I said, I think the benefit is you just got to see if Johnson's got anything moving forward. And you're not going to find that with him inactive on game days.
Well, and to go back to my point, Ennis Gaines has already been called up twice, and if you don't trust Anthony Johnson Jr., you're going to trust Benny Sapp. You're going to trust, uh who's the other one? Keandre Thomas. If you can't trust the guy that you've already got on the active roster, how are you going to trust the guys on your practice squad?
Yeah. I know some will say like, oh, they have a year in the system and stuff, but like I said, you gotta
Benny
let
Sapp
your picks.
doesn't.
Oh yeah, no, he doesn't.
Keandre Thomas maybe, but those are the outside of Ennis. Well, then you got Corey Ballantyne, but he's a corner. He's not going to play
Yeah,
safety.
Thomas is a corner too, so yeah, it's yeah. I don't know the uh, the 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 explanation that probably makes the most sense to me is it's a Joe Barry decision, which we all know how those go. So yeah, neither here nor there. And
Well, and then the kid that they signed from or claimed from Kansas City,
yeah, he's been an inactive both weeks.
Sorensen, is that
No,
his name?
Anderson.
Anderson. Um, yeah. So if he's been inactive, they won't play. They've been leaving Anthony Johnson Jr. inactive. They keep running Ford out there. Owens actually looked good on special teams today, so maybe
Yeah,
that's his spot. You could easily cut Ford and leave Owens in that special team spot. and have Anthony Johnson Jr. or Anderson or whatever, other guy they wanted out there.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know. It's confusing.
yeah, you have the safety room with 6 players, and like one and a half of them are fieldable on defense, and you're hoping that that one and a half, that half a player, I give Johnson half a player because he's a rookie, but you hope it becomes two. But I know that's kind of where I didn't like them overloading at so many special teams only or special teams primarily safeties coming into this season. I get that it wasn't a good draft, and Johnson might have been one of the better prospects in the class, but you got to at least get guys who can play defense, kind of thing. Their position is safety, not special teamer, kind of thing.
Well, I
So
also have to give Barry credit that he was actually starting to run 3 inside linebackers out there. He was starting to run uh I think
McDuffie out there, yeah, I saw
yeah,
McDuffie out there for a few
what
snaps,
was Vilma calling it, like the jumbo package or something, where
something like that.
you had 3 inside linebackers and uh 3 down linemen and 2 edge rushers or something like that. I gave him credit for that, and it seemed like it was doing okay.
Right, and that just goes back to the make Ritter prove he can beat you. Like, just don't let him just march down the field and only make screen passes and that kind of thing and all. But that, I say it all the time. Defensive coaches, especially older defensive coaches, they like to play it safe with a lead, and we saw it today. Atlanta just got in a rhythm, and Green Bay sat so long into the because Atlanta got the ball. They started the drive when they were down 24-12 at the very end of the third quarter, and then Green Bay didn't see the ball until crap. When did we get the ball back? We didn't get the ball back until basically under 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. So, you figure that's like half an hour, 45 minutes of real time. And you mostly hear it with guys like Rodgers and Brady, ice the good put the really good quarterback on the bench. But if it works against them, it's gonna hurt a first time starter as well. And you kind of saw that, Love was a little errant on that throw to Wicks coming out and stuff. But just gotta get off the field. You can't just let the opposing team have anything they want. And
Well,
yeah,
even if it's not just the opposing team, you got to do it for your own defense so they can get a breather.
yeah,
You can't let them get run ragged. And I
yeah.
think that might have been part of it too, was that they just started getting wore down. And
You lose time of possession by almost a full quarter. That's gonna happen. It doesn't matter that it was in a dome instead of outside.
so I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I'm ready to turn the page on this thing.
So yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's a Barry game. Moving to special teams, Dan Whelan, he's got a leg. I know we're waiting for cold weather, but it's good to see that he's punting in phase with his coverage unit. He's not, he's got a big leg, but he's got good hang time on it too. So I thought the coverage was pretty good. Like you said, Owens, it was unfortunate that he got called for that one face mask penalty, but I thought he and I think Gaines was the other gunner. I thought they were down the field in good time. I know we were talking about potential mind games with Anders Carlson, but he was still perfect on the day. Hopefully he can continue to keep it moving forward as the season goes on. And we kind of already talked about what happened on the first drive. I agree with you that once it got pushed back, they probably were like, oh, maybe not right now and stuff. But yeah, I just didn't understand the why there was no urgency to kick a 51-yard field goal. I feel like that's should be in a kicker's wheelhouse in this day and age of the NFL. But that's just hopefully that'll just be a footnote of this season as the year goes along and not something that we're looking back on. But Joe, do you have an MVP of the week this week?
Yeah, but it's more than one player. I would say it's the receiving core because they've really stepped up. Jaden Reed was looking amazing. Tay Wicks was looking great. Dobbs and I saw even Malik Heath was getting some snaps out there. So I really got to give it to him for not having, Christian Watson out there, not having Aaron Jones. We were looking for somebody to step up, and these young kids stepped up in a good way. Was it great? No, but they were doing something right out there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had, what'd you say, almost 90 defensive pass interference yards. Well, that just shows that they're doing something right. These DBs couldn't keep up with them. They were having to hold them to stop them.
Yeah.
So that would, if I had to narrow it down to one, probably Jaden Reed, but I would rather just stick with the receiving core because they did an amazing job.
No, I'm with you on that one. They had a really good game. I'm gonna go with Quay. I think it's not gonna show. It's hard to say that in a game where your defense gives up 225 yards on the ground. But I thought Quay was having an awesome game. Yes, you'd love to see him hang on to that pick, but for a guy who just got out of concussion protocol, or on Saturday, I thought he was on it on Sunday. He wasn't running the wrong way on any play. I don't feel like he was making good, solid tackles when he was in position. Like I said, got to convert on that interception, but I thought he was in the right place more often. Not more often, just almost all the time on Sunday. And that's the kind of year two jump you're hoping to see from him. And guess the next thing you're hoping to see is a little more juice from him in the pass rush. But I think between these first two games where you have Justin Fields as the opposing quarterback, so you want Quay's athleticism to kind of chase, spy and chase Fields around. And then this week where you have Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith at tight end, and you just kind of want Quay's ability in coverage there. And I thought he acquitted himself really well. It's been a really good start to the season for Quay, in my opinion. Least valuable player, I'm going to go with Rudy Ford this week. Like I said, we kind of covered it earlier today. I'm just not seeing it on defense. And like I said, it would be one thing if you were getting thunderous, solid tackling on at least one end of the spectrum of play. You could say, okay, at least he's doing that. But 2 weeks in a row, you seeing him missing some tackles that could have limited some gains. Or like you said, he's tackling people way past the first down markers. So, yeah, Ford is mine today. Who's yours?
Mine's not a player, so we're going to go least valuable personnel. And I'm going to say the coaching staff, up and down. I mean, Matt LaFleur, like you said earlier, seemed to be scared to go for anything. Once he got the lead, he went into like ultra conservative play calling. Joe Barry, he was doing good, but then all of a sudden it just went away. And they were still getting their yards, but it really led to the bend don't break because they were bending well, but they weren't breaking. And then it stopped. And it just seemed like Arthur Smith and his crew were outsmarting Joe Barry. And like you said earlier, Joe Barry could see everything because he's up in the booth. It'd be different if he was down on the turf and couldn't see half the stuff going on, but he's up top. I don't think he can get any higher unless he gets in the blimp or something. And so yeah, I'm not gonna go with a player, I'm gonna go with personnel.
No, that's fair. Yeah. It was it's a game that on face value, you're kind of thinking, yep, young teams lose that way. But it really was, like you said, the adults in the room that let them down at the end of the day, I think, more than anything. But you know what? Just like the Packers have to do, we're going to turn the page on this game. It's a bummer they're not 2-0, but the rest of the NFC North also went 0 for today. So the Packers are still by the technicality of having a division win to their record and both a division and a conference win to their record, they are still your NFC North leaders. And just, by those rules, leading the Detroit Lions for the NFC North lead. So that's still something to look for. So I kind of do like that the team has something a little. I don't want to say pressure, but they're playing for something, other than just a learning curve kind of thing. So I do like that they have that on their back this season. Just some programming updates for the listeners. We are going to be introducing a Thursday released pod to preview the upcoming game. In there, Joe will be bringing back his over-unders, kind of just to prognosticate what we're thinking may or may not happen in the game. And we will put out some tweets for listener questions, not user questions, listener questions. So please send those our way. We'd love to have some interaction with the fans. Joe, any final thoughts for this one, or are you kind of good on this one, just ready to turn the page?
Really nothing. I mean, we knew this was going to be an up and down season anyway. It was going to be a hard season to call, but
I think you had this one as a loss for kind of the reasons we saw them lose the game today, right? In our prediction, just kind of one of those probably should have won, but just didn't at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look because I don't remember, but it probably was just because of those reasons. Just who knows? Any given Sunday. I mean, like I was talking with my coworker who's a big gambler type. He always asks me what I feel about games, and he was telling me about the odds for this one, and I said I can understand it. Obviously I'm going to lean towards the Packers because I'm a player, Packer fan, but I can see where they're coming from with it. You know, at the end of the day, they didn't cover I think it was like the Falcons with -3, so they didn't cover that. But yeah, it just any given Sunday, the NFL is so hard to call that you never know what's going to happen. Next week they could come out and blow out the Saints for all we know. It could happen.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's gonna be one of those kind of seasons, but that's the ride we're on this year. And honestly, it like you said, it's good to not good, but this is one of those games you don't want to see later in the season, and you hope that they learn from the mistakes they made today. But that's gonna do it for us today, folks. Mahalo for joining us on this week's Ohana Packers Edition podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Kawano Mike and Joe at Iowa_Joe86. Find the show at Ohana_Packers. We drop new episodes every Tuesday. Please make sure to subscribe and give us a like if you enjoy what you hear. Also, please do give us a review. We'd love to hear feedback. We knew there would be games like this to endure this season. It's going to be a long haul, but there's 15 more to go. And now it's time to turn the page on to week 3. Go Pack Go and Aloha.